hunt begins, dear viewers. Tonight, Robert, Anthony, XJ, and I, Nikita, shall stalk the hunting grounds of an old short story. This tale, written by Richard Connell, stars a big game hunter. I don't know how to say this name really. Sanger Rainsford? Anyway, Rainsford, that's how we're going to call him. And his unfortunate trip to a mysterious land. After falling overboard, our protagonist becomes stranded on an island where a madman sets his own rules. General Zaroff and his mute fled the Bolshevik Russia for greener pastures. Yet their depravity and boredom led them to a vicious sport, the hunting of man. Will Rainsford survive this place, or shall he be the latest victim in the hunt for the most dangerous game? Which is also the title of the story. Little short and sweet introduction. I would like to suggest to our panel that maybe we just give a super brief review of like up or down for people who might want to go and read it, because this is a story that works on an element of surprise. At the same time, I'm unsure about this because I feel like this story has influenced so much of the zeitgeist that maybe everybody already knows about it, but doesn't know that it comes from a short story. Because there's a movie called The Most Dangerous Game, and there's been countless parodies in many shows, I mean, including The Simpsons, where this has been spooked, so to say, this whole idea. In effect, I think we will do it like this. You should go read it and then come back here. It's only about 18, 19 pages. Just stop it right here. Just press space, close the YouTube thing, and then read it over and come back to us. Wow, what a great story, right? This is to everybody who has come back, which I'm sure is like 2 people who actually followed my advice. But yeah, I found the story really exciting. It had a lot of twists and turns. This is not the first time that I'm reading it, but having it been maybe 10, 15 years, it still found ways to to really evoke that feeling of both dread and intrigue. So I really enjoyed rereading the story, and I'll go into more in-depth stuff later when we have heard from the rest of the people gathered here. Robert, why don't you start us off? What did you feel or think of the Most Dangerous Game?
I expected it to be good, so I wasn't surprised that it was good. It was better written than I was expecting because I'm such a pessimistic chap. Uh, yeah, very, very well written. There's not much scope for criticizing the technical performance. Any criticism one could make would be positive criticism as to possibilities in ways in which it could be expanded, or questions about whether the dramatic irony of the conversation at the beginning between Rainsford and his fellow hunter could be further exploited. Rainsford uh, is derisive of the idea that jaguars, for example, could feel, that hunted animals experience anything that would make one need to pity them. And of course, then very shortly he becomes hunted himself. Now, the story doesn't exploit this any further. The author probably thinks that he's made his point sufficiently by juxtaposing that early bit of dialogue and the terror of Rainsford when he finds himself the quarry. There's no long philosophical solemn thoughts later on about maybe I should have been more empathetic to the animals I've been hunting. Nothing like that, but perhaps it's not necessary. Perhaps the point has been well enough made, and to emphasize it would only lower the tone of the whole thing.
Really,
um,
I thought the ending is kind of saying that Rainsford is going to become the next Zaroff. That's what I got from it. I got the idea that that's why he's sleeping so soundly in this bed, right? Like the thing has come full circle. He has now gotten a taste of what it's like to hunt the most dangerous game, and he
I
may continue. That's
see. I see. That's a possibility. I hadn't got that myself. Perhaps I was unduly influenced by the film, which I saw a long time ago. I never read the story a long time ago, and I didn't even know there was a story. I just remember the film with Joel McRae, 1932, I think, something like that. And actually, that reminds me something else I wanted to say was that this is an example where the story and the film are both good. The film adds a sort of love interest, which is totally absent from the story, but that's all right, doesn't matter. And also, the film has one effective touch, which the story doesn't have, where Zaroff seals the doom of his guests by saying, "Oh, yeah, do come and look at my trophy room." And we know that the trophy room, although you don't actually see it in the film, must probably got human heads lining the walls. Anyway, once you've seen the trophy room, that's it. You've had it. You've got to be the next quarry because you know too much. I think that's an effective touch in the film, and it doesn't matter the story doesn't have it because it's only 16 or 18 pages long. It's an amazing achievement of compression. So I'm going to give it a very high mark.
nice. XJ, what about you? What did you feel about the story?
Um, in response to whether it's a thumbs up or thumbs down for me, I'm like kind of floating, like in the middle. So I didn't watch the movie. Neither have I read the book, the story before this. So you can call me a totally uncultured swine, no problem. So my thoughts are technically speaking, the short story is really well written. That it is a real page turner, I gotta say, and the hunt part was quite exciting. The author uses very short, punchy sentences to evoke faster pacing and all of that. I would say that, and I also kind of like the double twist. The little bit of conversation at the beginning about the feelings of the hunted animal kind of back the question, who is the hunted? So it was fairly obvious to me how the story at the end is going to turn, that our dear Rainsford is going to be hunted in some capacity. The only question was, was it going to be by an animal or was it going to be by a man? And in this particular case, it was it turned out to be a bit of a psychopath named Zaroff. Exhibits Zaroff. I'm so sorry. Zaroff.
It's not a real surname. I don't
Yeah.
think.
I'm like, okay, fair enough, and he Zaroff exhibits all the traits of a standard psychopath. Just in terms of all of that, it was the story is excellent, well executed. Perhaps my So I didn't quite get that sense that Rainsford was feeling like a little bit relief at the end, because now he's gotten a taste of hunting man, and now he wants to hunt man. I rather got the sense that he was just, oh my god, I can finally sleep at night tonight, nice warm bed and all of that, and I can be on my way back to New York and all that. I thought it would have been a nice little touch, like a triple twist, if you will, if a jaguar then ate him.
You're very bloodthirsty today.
I'm coffee thirsty. every day.
All right. Yes.
Yeah. But perhaps it's just because it is the way story written in earlier times is read by a more modern reader, and that is that I don't see anything surprising about the twist. But perhaps back then, if I were to read this story like 20 years earlier and for the first time, it might have been different. So, I am floating about the story because although it's well executed, very strong pacing, I could see the ending coming a mile away, but I might be unfair about that. Yeah, those are my takes.
All right, fair enough. Anthony.
Yeah, like XJ's saying, we're benefiting or not benefiting from the fact that this story was written, 80 years ago and published 80 years ago. So it's a trope that has been, as you've hinted at, Nikki, early on, it's been done and been done to death. No pun intended. It's been done and done and done. Someone hunting the most dangerous game. Well, what is the most dangerous game? That phrase, even in the zeitgeist of perhaps the reader of fiction like this, we all kind of know. Well, what's the most dangerous game? We all know that it's man. Spoiler alert. But it was interesting to read it. I thought, I'd never read this story before. I'd seen I've read so many versions and variations of the story and watched so many variations of the movie that there was no surprise, like we've all been saying. I thought, just like all of you were saying, the writing was very strong. It's very pulpy. It's from that era of the pulps, the pulp stories, but it was gave me some Doc Savage vibes, which I also haven't read a lot of Doc Savage stories, but it reminded me of sort of that, it's not really science fiction, it's not fantastical. It's two human beings that are, at maybe the peak of their skills. They're hunters, and they're very skilled and they're going against you. So it's man versus man. Okay, great. Uh, so for predictability's sake, just because of, again, we're all anchored in the time we're in, so there was no surprise to this story. So the tension was sort of blunted for me, that, I had no doubt that, as to the ending, one of these guys is going to die, obviously. I really kind of had no doubt that it was going to be our protagonist, who, gets high marks for stupidity, because he hears some gunshots on the boat. Again, spoiler alert. He's riding by this island on a boat. It's the middle of the night. He hears some gunshots off the one side, and he leaps up onto the railing of the boat, and does so vigorously that he falls over. He loses his pipe and is going after the pipe. He falls into the water, right? So maybe not so agile. He's not very pantherish in that way. So he falls into the water fine. He goes down. The writing was very pulpy. It was very tense. I actually, towards the end, I did sort of doubt who would be the winner. I have to say I was very disappointed in the ending. Again, stop right now and just read the story if you want to. You should have done that ages ago when Nikki said so in the beginning of the story of the cast here.
Mm-hmm.
But the story was just like on guard. Basically, he's in the room with Zaroff. He tricks Zaroff. He's in Zaroff's room in his palatial estate on this remote island, and basically Zaroff says on guard, and then all of a sudden it's Rainsford it's the best sleep he ever had in the best bed ever. And I'm like, show me a little bit of the fight. Show me the whole fight. Show me the fight. Like, I wanted to see the fight. I wanted the big duel at the end. It was a
You felt
horribly
robbed.
wasted. I was robbed. I was totally robbed. It was a wasted opportunity to show me
totally
a
robbed.
combat. To
Yeah.
show me a combat. Then it's like, I'm tired of writing the story, or I've met my word count for the Weird Stories magazine or whatever. I'm done. I'm like, are you kidding me? He just went sleepy time? Like, no, I don't know. So it takes big hit for me on that account. But the writing was strong. At the end, I was robbed of a great denouement where there was two guys facing off against each other, where they could actually show some prowess in combat for once. I mean, unless they're just hunters and like their only skill is to go from hiding. Like, okay, so then maybe they're not great physical combat fighters, but then make it a rough and tumble kind of brawl where they just roll
Mm.
around the ground and someone gets killed by like a stab wound or something. I don't know. But yeah, so again, it's for me, a modern reader, it's a curiosity of like, oh, this is where the concept of hunting another human being and the phrase "the most dangerous game" came from. Otherwise, I like the writing as from a craft standpoint, but yeah, I think he totally killed the ending for me with just like, oh, he won, go sleepy time. I don't know. Yeah, so not the greatest of experiences for me, but again, it's more of like a literary curiosity. Now I know where all these things came from, the trope came from. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Fair enough.
I don't agree about. I don't agree about the ending actually, Anthony. I think that there were two ways it could have been done, and the way you wanted it to be done is just one alternative, and the way
Yeah.
it was done is the other, and both are good, but one of them would have made a rather different sort of story, certainly a longer story, would have given the writer a lot of opportunities to do things, but in a sense, the curtness of the tale is highly effective in my view.
I agree. It did work in its own way, but I guess maybe I was just looking for a different experience. I guess So yeah. So it depends on what you're hoping to get out of it. You like that. You weren't expecting anything. I guess you went into it with less expectations than I did. I think I came in with more like, okay, we're gonna see the face off. At the end when he's in the room, he's gonna get revenge, and then it was just like, I don't know. So yeah. So you approached it with more of an open mind than me. To put it that way. Sure.
In a funny sort of way, it reminds me of the ending of Dracula. Dracula doesn't really have a big scene at the end of his life. Spoiler alert here, by the way, in case anyone hasn't read Dracula. But
well, if you haven't read Dracula by now, you will be an even more
Right.
uncultured swine than I am.
Yeah.
But but I think though in that case, in the Dracula case, it was a mistake. More should have been done. But this one, I think, two ways of doing it, both good.
Yeah. I think my biases came into it. As I was saying, I mentioned Doc Savage earlier. So I think when I started reading it, I became into a biased mindset with like, okay, this is a pulp story, and I know what those tropes are. I know what I'm going to get out of it, and then I didn't get it. So really, it was my fault for going into it with the expectations I did. But so, in a way,
100
good
years
points.
ago,
Good
by the
points.
way, not 80 years ago, I think.
Oh yeah, I know. Geez, 100 years ago. You're right.
Um, regarding the ending, I am the person on this podcast who likes schlock, and I think we are all acutely aware of that, right? Pew pews, boom booms. That's what I enjoy in my
Everything
spare
is
time.
improved by pew pews.
Yeah, exactly. That's my personal opinion. But I would say that this story, would it be improved for me personally? Maybe, almost certainly, if there was like the final confrontation. So on that, I'm on the side of Anthony, but I don't believe the story needed it, so to speak. And the sometimes less is more. And the reason I'm saying this is my mind, before I reread the story, remembered the confrontation that never happened. I created it in my head when I was a youngster, when I read this for the first time. And it was epic. They were rolling on the floor. There was a revolver involved. Like those are details of a thing that never occurred, but were in my head. So it's like it's kind of a cop out, right? But I feel like the strength of imagination of an individual, sometimes it might be best actually not to show you exactly what the monster is like or what the confrontation was like, and let you sit with it. But rereading it I was surprised, and I started looking for my version where there was a confrontation, and I never found it because it doesn't exist, right? So it's like, yes, it would be way cooler, but at the same time, then there would be no space left for a young mind reading this and to create their own amazing scene. It's a bit
Or
like
maybe
yeah.
or maybe you're a victim of the Mandela effect.
Oh yeah, I'm actually in a different universe. I want to
Right. You
gonna go
shift
back to
the
the other one. Strawberries were
yeah,
black, man. They look so beautiful. No, I've not.
right? Delicious.
Yeah. Delicious black strawberries. Yeah, I don't know. I
Delicious black
mean, uh,
No, but
I
you're
would
right.
want,
The power of
yeah,
imagination.
yeah, but I would want, like, if I had to say, like, I can't wishy-washy this, I would say, like, okay, then better have the conversation than not. But I see the appeal of it not existing and giving the imagination a moment to flourish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the best authors are adept at recruiting the reader to do some of their work for them, and that's what seems to have happened in this case with uh, with you, Nikki. Anyway, you filled in the gap.
Good point.
I still feel like my ending would have been top notch. He got eaten
Yeah.
by a jaguar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That would've worked, yeah.
I think the irony of that could definitely work.
Mm.
The maybe, right? So we're gonna get the best of both worlds, right? Anthony and XJ get their cake, right? So instead of it being in the master bedroom where they fight, he goes down into the pens and the what did you call it? The trophy room, right, where the heads of people are, and inside it there's a cage with a jaguar, and so
Yeah.
they're fighting, and then in the middle of the fight, the cage gets hit and the jaguar is unleashed, and this is the ending. Okay, Zaroff gets killed by the jaguar. Right. We'll add stuff that came from like my imagination too. There was a revolver involved, right? And
Or
Rainsford, he's got
yeah.
the he's got
Yeah.
the revolver in his hand, and he's like, okay, Zaroff is dead, and the jaguar is like eating him, and then it turns around and looks towards him, and he raises his revolver, and then the author just writes, Rainsford never fired his last bullet, for there were none left inside the revolver.
Yeah. Interesting.
There you go.
Yes.
I fixed it.
Yes, a three-way gangbang. That's always the best.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
the last thing
alright.
or
Yeah.
Zaroff goes down. It's like, oh shucks, that guy got away. And he's like, oh, it's time for me to feed my dogs. And he goes down to the dog pen, and there's Rainsford standing there with his hand on the latch, and he releases the dogs on Zaroff. And the last thing you see is like, and then Rainsford pulled the latch on the dog pen, and Zaroff screamed. And cut the black. I don't know.
Also
I don't
pretty
know.
good.
It's fun. It's fun. It's a good story. See, it's a good story. Lets us, like you're saying, Robert, lets us use our imagination, right? Fill in the ending that you want.
Was there a final confrontation in the movie?
I've never
Well,
seen any of the movie versions.
in the movie, Zaroff cheats or tries to cheat. I think he tries to pull a gun or something like that. Anyway, he doesn't play his own game because he lost, and therefore he's promised to let Rainsford go. And of course, he tries to go back on his promise. I think that's it, something like that. So the bounder, the cad.
Truly is a villain. Then he's cheating at his own game, right? He doesn't live by his own rules, right? Or die by his own rules.
So I'm a little bit curious about the geographical location of this place. It's somewhere in South America?
Caribbean.
The Caribbean.
Yep. Yeah, it says so.
Yeah. And the
What?
names are appropriately pulpy. Like, I mean, how masculine is that name? Sanger Rainsford.
Yeah, it is
It's
very.
like man. It's like, and then General Zaroff, he's a Cossack, because everyone knows Cossacks are like really tough
Tough.
guys,
Yeah.
And he's like, I pictured like his big bearded servant with Ivan, right? His name's Ivan the Terrible, basically. He's Ivan. He's got I pictured him looking like Rasputin. So it's like, obviously, he's the Russians, the bad guy, and General
I always
Zaroff.
find
They
it
just are
funny
awesome.
that people imagine Ivan, like all Ivans, as being like these tough guys. Because I know an Ivan who is like, he's not to say to his detriment, but the man is as thin as a toothpick, so you would not fit in your imagination. But I think Ivan does sound like a big tough name of a mute,
Right.
so it is used very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
At least
what's your
over
favorite?
here, it is.
Yeah, of course. What was your favorite scene, actually?
Mine. I think the hunt itself was pretty well. Like I said, it was quite well written. It was like very punchy, and I like particularly the part where he was Sengal was like using like the swamp to sort of trap his first the General Zaroff's first pursuit. I think he lost a dog there, and then the second round was some kind of trap. I do wish that the author went into some details about the trap, because like we only got to know when Zaroff was sounding off about this Burmese man tiger trap or whatever. Was it Malaccan man tiger trap? Something like that. Anyhow, yeah, it was that gave us some insights to how Rainsford was feeling when he was like trying to see like where he laid the traps, and then like just waiting with bated breath on Ivan and the dogs to step into it. And I think like that part at least properly answers the question that was posed right at the beginning. How do hunted animals feel? Well, there you go, Rainsford. You properly experienced it now, haven't you? So that kind of stuff, yeah. And the scene itself was quite that hunt scene itself was quite well described as well. We get a very good sense of how Rainsford was feeling. Maybe not so much the environment, but at least we kind of know where he was hiding when Zaroff came down and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a bit. There are some details missing that would have painted a much clearer picture in my mind, but overall, probably that is the best part of the story for me.
Nice. And what about you, Robert? What is your favorite scene?
I remember several scenes that are really good. So it's very hard to say. Um, I don't regard them as being very separate either. They all kind of blend in. The various traps that Rainsford sets. There aren't that many of them because it's such a short story. It could have been spun out almost indefinitely, a bit like Kafka's. Kafka's, was it called, The Trial? It's episodic, but you could add any number of episodes really, and in the end, he has to bring it to an end. So, yeah, I can't really pick on one scene. It strikes me that it would be easier to answer the question if the story had been longer and one could sort out one from another. It sort of blends in. The theme blends into what you might call the subgenre of assassination stories, where the political assassination stories. I think of two examples: "The Day of the Jackal" by Frederick Forsyth, about an attempt on the life of Charles de Gaulle, and "Rogue Mail" by Geoffrey Household, which is about a chap in the 1930s who tries to assassinate Hitler, and
Mhm.
he fails quite early in the book, and most of the book is about him trying to escape the German authorities who are after him, and he gets no help from the British authority because the countries are still at peace, and he's an embarrassment. They don't want him to be a cause of war, so he has to go into hiding, and there are people after him. And it's in a way, he is the hunted. He wanted to be the hunter, but he turns into the hunted because he failed, and that's an interesting take on the theme.
Mm.
Yeah,
Anthony,
I think
I'd
for
like to ask you the same. Yeah.
sure, yeah. I think for me it was again, I kind of knew where the story was going, but the sitting down at dinner and having, the slow reveal of or having that conversation and philosophizing over the animals they hunt, and then revealing what the most dangerous game is. I thought that was just, it was just great conversation, kind of,
That's
going
actually
over and
also
the slow
my
reveal
favorite
of that.
scene. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
I
I
thought,
think that
yeah,
was very well done.
mm.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I thought that
You know what?
was I thought that was a bit draggy. Wow, looks like our tastes differ.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was just like,
Hey,
come on, come on, come on, just get to tell him he's gonna discover, and it was like great. Like he just discovered it on his own. Like he's like, wait, no, you can't be serious. Like
you don't
you're hunting
mean.
humans. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I thought
You
that
don't
was
ever
cool.
say it outright. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I thought the beginning dialogue actually between Rainsford and Whitney was
pretty good.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's one of those rare stories from yesteryear where not like none of the dialogue feels dated or well, for the lack of a better term, absurd in any way. It's very well measured, and you know, I was like hanging at the edge of my seat even the second time reading it, and knowing all that is about to transpire. It really once again captured that feeling for me, the feeling of dread. I know what's coming. I am aware. I think even back then when I read it for the first time, I knew that like there's something really wrong about this general guy, right? But it's just the slow build up of the character learning it. Um,
Mm.
there's a trick in movies that I very much enjoy, and that is when the audience sees that something terrible is about to happen to the character and they have no idea. So it's like, somebody's standing next to the window, and we get the shot of the window of this thing slowly rising from the ground, and the darkness, we can only see its eyes, and it's peering through, right? And the guy that we're following, or the woman, they have no idea, and they're like, panting because they think that they've escaped danger and are standing right next to the window where the danger lies.
Mm.
I love that kind of stuff.
The film Alien has quite a lot of that, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, yes. Um,
Mm.
if you were to write a sequel to this, I'll bring this little drama segment that we used to do here. Um, what would you write it about? Let's ask Anthony first. Anthony, if the I don't know, the magazine for science fiction and fantasy came to you and they said, Anthony Simeon, my friend, you're a great author. We need you to do a sequel to this story. Give it justice. What would you do?
Oh, I would definitely go with what you had suggested. That Rainsford is he becomes the new general of the island. He takes over for General
Mm.
Zaroff. He catches the bug, and he falls for the whole thing, and he's like, well, since I beat this man, then I will become the new general of the island, and become the hunter of man, So I think that would, but maybe he finds ways to improve on the operation somehow, and he makes it even more diabolical. Maybe he lays traps. Maybe he doesn't hunt just with the pistol. Maybe he's a layer of traps And he brings like a few people onto the island, and not only will I, hunt more than one human being at the same time, so he'll do it. He'll just up the ante. He'll make it even more insane. With it becomes an island of deadly traps, and he brings a bunch of people at once. So he does everything better in his mind than Zaroff did. But maybe this time, once and for all, he's the whole concept of hunting humans on this island is brought to an end by maybe the last survivor of this group, but he breaks the chain, or she breaks the chain of events, and brings it to an end and destroys the island and all that it stands for. Who knows? But something to that effect. I'd have to. But I think it's I think irony is that he takes on the madness of General Zaroff, Rainsford. He becomes the villain.
Nice, I like it. What about you, Robert? What would you do?
Yeah, I think I hadn't thought of it myself, but I'd probably vote for Anthony's version. My original idea had been much more fanciful, which is what happens to hunters post-mortem. Do they get sent to a special place where they're in the they're put in the bodies of jaguars and told to run for it?
Oh, could you imagine? We go with Zaroff and he goes to Cossack hell, and he becomes a deer or a stag, let's say, and he has to escape beasts.
Or he gets
That would be cool.
reincarnated.
Could
He
make
gets
for
reincarnated on
could make for
on
an
the island.
interesting science fiction twist, I suppose. Mind transference and all of that.
Yeah, or reincarnation onto the island in a body, right, of an animal. So he's tormented and tortured and hunted as an animal that he's so belittled and hunted in life, right?
Yep.
Interesting. Good one. What about XJ?
Yeah, what would be yours?
I actually would be. I think I would be hard pressed to write a story that keeps to the spirit of what the original had laid down, and to actually write a story that is on par or better. I think I'll be really hard pressed to do that. I'm not quite sure actually, without making it ridiculous. To be quite honest, I'm not sure I have the skill to pull it off.
I would make it a story about something a little bit more current. The idea of making this into a business, right? So monetizing it. So I would make it so that Rainsford sees the potential in this. He has been changed, but his life has become just as boring like it was for Zaroff. And he is realizing this thrill. This is something that I could offer, but it's not something that would be accepted by those living in the society. So like this island, this whole complex, it's all perfect for this, right? So he becomes this man who is running this entire island. But I would not make that apparent. I would make it so that the story follows a different individual, just another aspiring hunter who gets invited to the island with a bunch of other people, and we get to revisit the places, the swamps. We get to, see the manor again, as there are now a bunch of other aides, not just this one mute, right, like it was in the story. And slowly over time, as the nostalgia is being used to settle you in, the story would then be like, yeah, here's the twist that everyone knew that's coming, who's reading this, that this is not about hunting animals, this is about hunting humans. And then the twist I would make, well, the first twist, so to speak, is that people can pay an extra price to choose who they hunt. So you've got this guy who really hated his ex-wife, right, or something, and she's put on the island, and now she has to survive. And then I would split the story to the people who are being hunted. So you've got the hunters and this young guy who really doesn't understand why he was invited here and he doesn't like it. And then you've got the what's it called, the other side, which is the people trying to survive and them slowly being picked off. And then there would be the final confrontation of the survivors and the young man who is against this, who turns on the hunters. And the final confrontation is, of course, with Rainsford, and that's when the audience would get to find out that he is the one who is running the island. That's the way I did.
Okay, sounds a little bit Hunger Gamerish, but okay, I like it.
You can call it.
I like it.
The most
a capital.
game.
Yes, I was going to say a very capitalist bent on the story. Yeah, cool. I like it.
Profitable.
Yeah. Probably I wouldn't go so far as to say, they get to pick and choose who they can hunt, because that's like veering into Hunger Games territory, I think.
I don't know. I watched the movie, and I think, wait, don't they get sacrificed as tributes? It's not like you choose who you hunt. It's just like you fight in a big arena.
I mean, it was, I guess the reason why it sounded a little bit Hunger Gamerish to me is that the participants of the game hunt people that they know, or sort of tangentially that they know. Yeah.
I don't think that's part of Hunger Game, is it? They all live in different districts, and
they sort of know who. They have connections to who they're hunting, sort of. That seems to be.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's the general idea.
All the
impression
killing each other.
Yeah.
I'm not fully convinced, but I'll give it to you because I don't know that much about Hunger Games.
Well, my impression on the movie anyway, I have to say it's a bit blurry to me right now. Neither the movies nor the books were super outstanding in my mind. No offense to people who like the books and the movie, of course. This is my personal taste.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many variations of this too, because then you have Squid Game, right? The Squid Game series that came out, that it was just like, rich people kind of, killing, making a contest for people to, poorer, lower class people to die in, basically, to try to win money. So it's, and then there's even movies. There's over time, there's so many movies where it's like, so many variations. Like that Apocalypto movie I thought was amazing back in the day, years ago. It's probably a decade old now, but where it's like the Mayan civilization, and they just used they killed their sacrifices. They captured sacrifices and killed them, and like hunted them down if they escaped or whatever. So it was, but yeah, it's you can do this so many different ways.
That actually brings to mind, like, actually the first time I have read or seen something in this genre where humans are killing each other in like a sport like event is this Japanese show called Battle Royale.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that.
Yeah, that was the first time I've seen it, actually. Well, yeah.
And that was like kids, right? Like teenagers.
They're teenagers.
Right?
Like I don't know why, but the worst kind of things happen to Japanese teenagers.
Yeah.
They get abducted by giant monsters and all sorts of. It's dangerous to be a Japanese teenager, basically.
Yeah. That's the quote of the show. That's the quote of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, no, I how would you? I really like all of the ideas that. I mean, I feel like there's a kind of a little bit of everything we can take from all of our ideas of how to write a sequel or sequels to this. Yeah, it's interesting. How this idea in concept comes together. And then there was a movie recently called The Hunt. I think that came out, and then there was a movie a more recent version of the movie came out a couple years ago, the Most Dangerous Game, with the same, that title. Yeah, it was like 2022, I want to say.
We're 3 years too late to capitalize.
Yeah. So it's it's something that just like the Hollywood and other people like to revisit over time and rehash things and bring it up again for a new generation, But
Hmm. I mean,
yeah,
it is a timeless
unfortunately,
idea. I really like it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with digging out some old good stuff and then just remodernizing it for, I don't know. Yeah.
a new generation.
I wonder-
Bloodthirsty.
Actually, I have a question that is totally unrelated to a most dangerous game, but it just popped up in my mind because we were talking about old stories being given like a new facelift, and my question to you guys is, what stories have you read that would never turn into movies that you really absolutely would die for? My vote would go to any one of John Wyndham's stories.
They're too good to spoil, though.
To spoil?
Well, I wouldn't want to see them turned into movies.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, I don't know. One of John Wyndham's stories was turned into a TV series, I think. The Midwich Cuckoo.
Oh, well, the thing about writers like Wyndham is that they depend for their effects not only on imagination but also on their literary style, which can't be translated onto the screen. So you immediately lose 50% of the goodness of it, if it's dependent on the
Well,
style.
I don't know. I would love to see the Day of the Triffids on the screen for sure.
You'd have to recreate 1950s England.
That's not too difficult.
You reckon? What, CGI or something?
No, I mean,
Well, a mixture of. I mean, if they could recreate Westeros, I don't see why they can't do 1950s England. Yeah.
Well, I'm not too sure
Interesting.
what
Maybe
a
this-
triptych looks like, actually. My idea of a triptych is from the front cover of my very old paperback.
I know.
edition.
That's why it's so fascinating just to see. Like, I mean, to me anyway, it would be great.
I
but-
mean, a triptych is
Maybe
quite
this-
fat.
Quite fat.
It's interesting. The question arises: does everything need to be made into other media? Does everything need to become a TV show or a series or a movie? Are there some things that should not be translated across media?
I mean,
It's always an
what
interesting-
is your definition of should or shouldn't be, right? Like,
Well,
if
again, like
it's a good
Robert
ar-
said, how would you translate it? Some things maybe are not. They don't translate because it lives so much it depends so much on the imagination of the reader. Once you give it a form that's fixed on the screen, does it lose something? Does it lose that imagination, the key ingredient of the human imagination? 'Cause at that point, it's one person's or a handful of people. They use their imaginations and they make it a physical form for the screen.
Well,
And then
for
at that
me,
point, it takes your
whenever-
imagination out of it.
whenever someone is adapting something, that's exactly what they're doing, and they can't try and recreate everything, and if they do, that's actually when a lot of the adaptations fail, because they focus on the wrong things and they don't try to be the media that they are in. So I feel like if you are going to take something, and just like Robert and you said that there are elements of it that are hard to put on screen, then you take the spirit of the story, but not all of its parts. And that is still, in my opinion, an art form, to reinterpret something great and make it into something else. I mean, for me, this might become a reality at some point because I think it would be a great TV show or a movie. But Metro 2033, it was made into a game. I know that, but like that book, I think could be. I think people will be talking about it for years after. After it was published. It's one of the modern gems of
I've always wanted to check out Metro, Except that it's like a first-person shooter, and I cannot deal with first-person shooters. I would just get super sick, kind of sick. Yeah.
Read it, man. Read it.
So well, you see, here's the thing. I didn't even know it was a book until you just said it. Yeah.
You didn't know that Dmitry Glukhovsky wrote it? Okay.
No.
Yeah, it was first a book. There's three books. 2033, 2034, and 2035. 2033 is the best one out of the three, in my opinion. I very much respect the author. I've met the author. He's a great guy. And he even did a whole thing to help starting writers. He created a project called Metro 2003, the universe of the book, basically, and a bunch of aspiring authors got to publish their very first books and write in that thing. Unfortunately, they were never really translated into English, the supplementary books, and most of them are not that good. But they have the spirit of the universe, and a lot of them do expand it in very quirky and cool ways. But there's never been a cinematograph adaptation, and I think it is one of those tales, especially now with the type of advancements we have made in visual effects. I think it would be a really cool story to see on screen. But what about you, Robert? Is there a story? I know you're not a fan of the entire idea. You're not entirely convinced that this should be done. But if we put a revolver next to your head and said you have to choose, what are you going to choose?
Something that's quite impossible, I think, which is David Lindsay's A Voyage to Arcturus. I wouldn't mind seeing an attempt to make that into a film. It's
describe the story for us, because I never heard of it.
A Voyage to Arcturus, published in 1920. It's probably maybe the best science fiction novel ever written. I would argue it might be anyway. One of the 2 or 3 best anyway. It's a story of a man given an unexpected chance to voyage to a planet called Tormance, and which is around the star Arcturus. And he gets there and he undergoes some amazing metaphysical adventures, because the world is kind of raw and bursting with life, and to such an extent that if you go there, you start developing new physical organs and also new mental powers, and they sort of come and go, and everything is a blaze of power, if you like. But the author is writing the whole thing in a self-contradictory way, because the message of the book is contradicted by the book itself. The book itself is fascinating, but the message is that it's a sort of Gnostic message, which is nothing in this universe is at all interesting. It's all a con, and the only thing you can do is hope for a glimpse of something beyond. But the book is so brilliant that you realize that this universe is full of fascination as well. So it's a mighty contradiction. But I don't
Sounds
know
like
how
a fun. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great book, but I don't know how you could make a movie out of it. I really don't. But maybe I don't know.
If you're talented enough, I think you could make anything work.
Right.
But I think whoever would be making it would have to be just as in love with that story as you sound to be, right? So they'd have to respect it while also realizing that they have to change it in some way. And I think that would be the perfect, the perfect thing.
The person would also have to be quite intelligent, and that would rule out someone like Peter Jackson making the Lord of the Rings in such a technically brilliant, but he got the pacing all wrong. Everything that's supposed to happen fast, he slows it down, and vice versa, and he leaves out whole chunks of the most important things in the book. So you need to have somebody who I think he probably did love the books, but he, there's something missing up there.
Well, I mean, his interpretation of his love for the story was not for the books was not what you wanted. But I think a lot of people do enjoy those movies.
Only
But
if they
I
can read the book.
Yeah, that may be true. I mean, I actually did not watch Lord of the Rings until my girlfriend at the time forced me to watch them. And I really enjoyed them, but I enjoyed them because I was watching them with my girlfriend, and not like because I enjoyed everything on screen. I think it's a great flick for sure. Anthony, is there some? Did you say what you would want to see adapted that isn't?
Sorry, my General Zaroff tried to kill me, so I barely escaped. So
General
sorry,
Zara? Okay.
that's why my
No
video is malfunctioning. I don't know the last thing you saw of me, but my computer decided to get assassinated by General Zaroff, I
General
think.
Zara. Well,
Oh,
one thing is for certain: I will never forget your smile.
thank you. Well, it's nice knowing you. No, I
Oh
think
God, jeez.
I. No, I think that I would. Well, I think they're making a series on based off of Neuromancer, uh, the William Gibson novel. It's probably one of my favorite novels of all time. So we're still talking about that topic before I blacked out because General Zaroff shot me with a poison dart.
Mm.
But yeah, I think they're making a series coming up on Amazon, which they already kind of messed up one William Gibson series based off one of his newer novels. So they kind of canceled it after one season. So I'm very dubious about these big companies and big media conglomerates run by the likes of Jeff Bezos and such that are adapting all of these materials, of literature. So, hey, they're going to create a series. Maybe just make it short lived. Maybe make it 8 episodes and it's done. Rather than trying to drag the story out. So, but I think I'd be curious to see what they do with Neuromancer, but I'm not holding my breath.
Mm. All right. So, shall we go to the scores for the most dangerous game?
Yep.
Yes, let's do it.
I will give it a solid 10 out of 10. It is a classic. It's
My
well written.
God. Really?
Yes. Now
Wow.
your mind is altered because you are reading this in the time that we are.
No, I'm just
currently
surprised. I think this is quite literally the first time you've given a 10 out of 10, and you have not even given
Might
a
be.
10. You haven't even given a 10 to any of the Conan stories. I'm like, is this Nikki I'm talking to? Tell me who you are and what have you done to our friend Nikki?
I shaved his beard and I took his personality. Yeah, I mean, for me, one has to recognize a masterpiece, and this is certainly it. I think the pacing is great. I think all of the qualms that I have with the story are like basically personal preferences, and when I look at it as a piece of art, I cannot make it so. I cannot give it anything else. And as far as Conan, I love him. I love Robert E. Howard. But to me, this story does the pacing and the tension in a way where you get lost in it. And if I get lost in a story, even after reading it for a second time, you've done something right. There you go. So that's my 10 out of 10.
Wow. Amazing.
Oh, geez, I'm gonna give it I'll give it
Oh,
a 6.5. 6.5.
6.5
out of
okay.
10.
All right. Okay.
I think
Cool.
the writing carries it. But
Totally carried it.
yeah.
Yeah, the writing is really good.
Yeah.
Robert? 12 out of 10?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is your score?
Mm. I think I might give it a 9.99 out of 10. The 0.01 is just to take off because he uses the word palpable very early on, and that's a bit of a cliche. But of course, it might not have been a cliche in those days. But anyway, just to be different from Nicky for once, I'll go lower than he and just give 9.99, which is still fairly good.
Just to rub it in, Nikki. Robert's just
Yeah,
rubbing
that's
it in.
I hope he gets my back if he's rubbing. So what is your score in that case?
I was gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah. The writing is really solid, as I think every one of us recognized. Just like I'm just suffering from the same issue that Anthony is suffering from, which is like I'm a modern reader that can't really divorce himself from the modern literature landscape, so to speak. So unfortunately, some of the setup that the author has done feels to me like it has been done 1,000 times, although from what we have been discussing, he appeared to be the guy that have set the trend, so to speak. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Still high score though.
All right.
Fair enough.
Okay, so I guess that wraps up the most dangerous game.
Anthony's score.
6.5, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, I said 6.5. Yeah, the writing carried it, but I think it gets marks for me. Yes, maybe it's a failing on my part, but like I said, I went in it maybe with too much expectation of something a little more satisfying. Of like the villain gets his comeuppance.
Well,
the villain got off light, but maybe I'm just used to Hollywood endings.
Maybe Anthony and I just read the stories the wrong way.
You're doing it
Oh,
wrong.
That used to be a favorite saying of Robert. He has stopped saying it, but
We will pick up the torch. We'll carry the torch, Robert. All right. Well, I guess that wraps up the our discussion on the most dangerous game. And if you guys like the podcast, enjoyed what the stuff that we've been discussing, please support the podcast. Give it a like, comment in the comment section, and we'll see you next time.